My name is Sylvester Butler. I'm here with my partner Eddie Neal. We developed a defensive scoring system that for the first time in team sports history allows the defense to score by design. It applies to all major team sports: football, basketball, baseball, soccer, and hockey. It's branded as Plus 1D. Tell them a little bit more about Plus 1D.
Plus 1D is a scoring system that allows the defense to score by design. And say, for instance, how would that apply to, say, sports like football? Okay, anytime there's a forced turnover, forced by the defense, and that results in the plus 1D points. For instance, a forced fumble results in the plus 1D points. A forced interception will result in the plus 1D points. Anytime the defense forced the offense into a punting situation, it will result in the plus 1D points. Say, for instance, a block or a missed field goal would force a turnover, so that would result in plus 1D points. A failed two-point conversion would be considered a forced turnover, so that would be a plus 1D point.
It applies to all teams. How it applies to basketball. Basketball is the 24-shot clock violation is a plus 1D point. A charge is a plus 1D point. A block shot that forces a turnover is a plus 1D point. Any forced turnover is a plus 1D scoring opportunity. And right now in basketball, at the end of the game, only one player can win a game, and that's the offensive player by shooting a 2 or 3-pointer. But with our system, the plus 1D system, at the end of the game, if the player blocks the ball and causes a turnover, that's a plus 1D point. Or if he steals the ball, which causes a turnover, that's a plus 1D point.
With baseball, I think the pitcher is probably the most prolific player on the defensive side of the ball. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay, but anytime he forces a no-hitter ending, I think that should result into a plus 1D point, at least 1 point. Anytime there's say a triple play in a game, that should result into a plus 1D point. Say, for instance, there's a ball that's recovered, a ball that probably would typically be a home run, but say a fielder, outfielder goes and he jumps above and beyond the fence line and retrieve that ball. I think that would be considered a plus 1D point.
Yeah, that's what we set out to do is reward the defensive effort. All defensive efforts are considered individual scoring events. For instance, like hockey and soccer. Well, for instance, soccer, our defensive player was paraded around as a hero, as he should have for defensive stop. But
how many stops did he have?
I think it was 15 or 16 stops. But they lost the game.
Yeah, well.
In our particular system, he would have had scored 15 points, which, just like the pitcher, the goalie is the most important player on the field, in my opinion, because everything stops and starts with him. So if he blocks the ball, when he has to cover an area that's over 12 feet wide, 8 feet high, and multiple offensive players can team up in any combination to score against him, he should be awarded a point if he can block that point.
I agree totally. I mean, if you put it that way, with that amount of field to have to cover from all those different angles, he should be rewarded at least 1 point anytime he's in a position to stop that goalie. What do you think this would do for the game of football?
Well, it incentivizes the defensive players to go out and even play even harder than they are playing now, because for the first time they have tools to contribute directly to the outcome of the game. Now you got defensive players that, like you alluded to earlier about the bounty hunting. In this particular situation, there won't be no reason to bounty hunt, because the object of the game is to win the game, and how you win the game is scoring points, not to go out to hurt the individual to get him out of the game or whatever. So this would incentivize the defense, I think, the players to play even harder and even safer because they're trying to score opposed to.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Now you're not so much talking to the individual player, but you're targeting the ball or the interception or stripping the ball to recover the fumble, because now you're interested in points now,
Yeah.
not getting that particular player out of the game. But overtime, overtime right now is a serious problem in the NFL, because right now, even with the changes in overtime, I still don't think it's really fair to the team who doesn't get the toss of the coin. For instance, Seattle played Denver a couple of weeks ago, and the game went into overtime, and Seattle got the toss of the coin. And I think in 14 or 15 plays, Wilson moved the ball down the field and scored a touchdown. Peyton Manning, he didn't even get a chance to touch the ball. So what would +1D do for overtime in the NFL?
I think over the course of the game, the +1D system allowing the defense to score from the start to the finish would ultimately propel the best team to winning the game, and the game will be actually won on the field, opposed to relying on the flip of a coin whether you're going to have the opportunity to win the game or not, because the +1D truly embodies the whole team concept opposed to just the offensive game scheme as it is today.
So really, if you look back and you look at that film, you would basically have to figure out how many times Denver forced Seattle to punt the ball, and how many times Seattle forces Denver to punt the ball, how many times Seattle forces Denver to intercept it, the fumble. So you basically have to go back to the stats and statistics to really find out who was the better team on the football field using our concept.
And imagine that's just relying on the statistics. The players didn't even have a clue that this concept was in play.
Oh, yeah.
Now, imagine if they knew that this concept was in play, how much different the game would be.
Yeah.
How excited would a defense would be to get a 3 and out.
Well, you're speaking to an ex-defensive player, so I can imagine if I was playing football right now and I was on the defensive side of the ball, it would rev me up, beyond and above. I would go beyond and above of what I would have to do out there to make sure my team win, because at any given moment, I could strip the ball away. I could, maybe take a chance on getting an interception that I wouldn't normally take, if this wasn't in place. But if this was in place, yeah, I would definitely be more eased to contribute to that scoring scheme caliber of things, as opposed to not sitting back and resting on maybe making the tackle, as opposed to stripping that ball away or going for the interception, or, doing everything that I could possibly do to put points on the board now.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think the scoring system is definitely needed because of all the newest restrictions that being imposed on the game from concussions. It's taking really the wow factor away from the game. One of the biggest aspects was the big hits. And the big hits is no longer feasible, or either for the NFL or the players to continue on that path. So they need a new outlet, and this is something that they can ratchet up the excitement back in the game without impacting the game from a traditional or integrity standpoint. It doesn't affect the integrity of the game. It is a good, clean, easy transition. I mean, it's a perfect fit for the present scoring system as it is now.
Yeah, because like you said, every time there's a transition, somebody's scoring. Either the offense scoring or the defense scoring. And, I like that concept of +1 because, as it stands right now, defense is designed to prevent the offense from putting points on the board. But how much of a factor do you think 1 or 2 points would make into a game, providing something like this was actually, implemented?
It'll be huge. Most games only won by a field. Tight games won by a field goal or a touchdown. And if you consider each team punts a minimum, and maybe they would or wouldn't in this particular scenario when they know that it costs them points, but they on average now they punt 6 to 8 times a game or 12.
I would think I was just taking a tally of it the other night, and I noticed that between 8 to 12 times, that better defense forced that offense to punt the ball between 8 to 12 times a game. But 8 to 12 points in a game, could very well be huge. Because now, it forces that offense, to take a lot more chances, which would generate a lot more excitement. Because now, if the ball, say, for instance, is on the 50-yard line and it's 4th and 1, I don't know if any offensive coordinator or head coach is not going to go for it to try to, to get that first down. Because what head coach or offensive coordinator want to give up a point?
I agree. And that's why it makes the game more of a holistic game opposed to just an offensive game. Now you have to strategize on both sides of the ball, and it gives the whole team an equal opportunity to share in the win or a loss as we see it.
Strategy is like strategy would go out of the window. I mean, imagine, the kind of strategy that you would have to put in place if you're an offensive or defensive coordinator now.
Not to cut you off, but I even think it would change the way they draft players, because you get a player like the one came out of, what's the guy name came out of
Clowney.
You get a player like that, he could be a lethal scoring machine from a psych standpoint, and I think it would add value to the defensive players based on now the scoring capability opposed to just interception is one way, but now it's actually a score, and it just add value to the overall game and the players itself.
Without a doubt. Like I said, I was just kind of going over my head about all the different scenarios that occur during the course of a game. Now it'll be almost impossible for a head coach to want to punt that ball away when it's fourth and whatever. I mean, he would have to give second thought now, because now he's not just giving up field position, he's giving up point and field position.
Right.
So that would change everything.
As we said, the scoring system is simple, but the totality of it changes everything.
Hey, if you guys have any feedback pertaining to defensive scoring by design, please feel free to leave your comments.
I can definitely co-sign that. On behalf of Plus 1D, I'm Sylvester Butler.
Eddie Neal.
We out.